Hello everyone, hope you all are doing fine. This is Gautam from Shailaja IS. In this class, we'll try and understand the recent event that is related to your AI and your data infrastructure. What was in news? Google breaks ground in Vizag and establishes 600 acres AI hub. It is not fully developed right now, but at least the groundbreaking ceremony has been done on April 28th, 2026. Right? It was announced long back itself. It is a partnership between your Google, your Adani, your Airtel, and your Andhra Pradesh state government. So all four of them have come together in order to establish one of the biggest AI data centers or AI data hubs in Asia. Okay, so it is having obviously its largest AI hubs in US, but outside of US, the one that is going to be established in Vizag or Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh, which is a coastal town, that is going to be the largest in Asia for Google. Right. So in this video, what we'll try and understand is the advantages or the merits of the project. We'll also try and understand the India's trajectory with regard to artificial intelligence development, because you all know that India is in the cusp of fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution was based on your steam power. Second industrial revolution was based on your electricity. Third industrial revolution was based on your electronic power. Now we are on fourth industrial revolution, which is going to be powered by your artificial intelligence, which is going to be powered by the synergy between your software and hardware. That is your something called as Internet of Things. Right? So in this context, we'll try and understand what is India's trajectory or what is India's plans, and whatever is the project that we are now celebrating across social media, is it really worth the hype? Are there criticisms with regard to the approach that we are taking? And India, despite being an IT services leader for nearly 3 decades, from 1990 onwards, you have big IT services stalwarts like your Infosys, Wipro, TCS, who are the global leaders in your IT services. Despite that, why we couldn't develop our own artificial intelligence models? We'll try and understand the reasons behind that. We'll try and understand why India is not even considered to be in the race of your artificial intelligence or your fourth industrial revolution. The race is now only between your China and USA. Why is India not even considered to be a part of the race? We'll try and understand that. Right, and finally, we'll try and understand the way ahead in order to restructure our foreign AI deals. How can we make it much more better, or what is the way ahead? But before that, I want to give you a brief background about the AI race itself. Okay, what are the determinants of who is ahead in your AI race, or who is ahead in your fourth industrial revolution? See, AI race is basically resting on 3 pillars. The first is your AI models itself, like whatever models you are having, like Gemini or Claude or GPT or DeepSeek or Llama. There are multiple AI models, which is the actual intelligence that that is actually being the actual coding that is actually giving your artificial intelligence. So there is this base code where there is a data input and it produces intelligence. See, and here primarily it is your Google, here it is your OpenAI, your Anthropic. There is a AI chatbot called as your Claude chatbot, which is actually a phenomenal AI model. These are some of the US companies, US models that we often see across the news, that we are often familiar with it. The most common feature that you would have used is your generating photos. You just give a prompt to either Gemini or ChatGPT, or your Claude is not having, or Anthropic is not having image generation facility. But Google and OpenAI, you give a prompt that I want myself to be imagined in landing on a moon, or you can say flying a rocket, or anything as you wish, or riding a tiger, whatever it is going to understand the prompt, and it is going to give you the output of the image that you are actually expecting. That reasoning part of it, that AI reasoning part of it, is called as your AI models. Second is data. Now these models and all are going to get better with time as and when the data is going to be analyzed and processed. So the more data, the more iterations, the more inputs and the more outputs, AI is going to learn from the data, from the outputs itself. AI is going to learn from the data, and it is going to get better with regard to reasoning. It is going to be better with regard to the processing of the data itself. So data as an input is also another important factor in this AI race, right? Finally, we have the chips or the silicon. All of this needs to run on graphic processing units. That is the hardware part of it. Because these are heavy computational models, and it cannot run on your normal computers or normal mobile phones. So it needs a high processing chip. It needs an advanced semiconductor base. So whoever is having hardware will be having some sort of a control in this AI race. Okay, so it rests on these three pillars. Right now, if you look at USA is front runner in AI models, because all these companies are USA based and they are front runners in this. Data also, they are front runners because they are a global company. All these are global companies, so they have access to data from Asia, access to data from Europe, access to data from USA and all across the world. So data is also not a big problem for the US. Where it is maybe struggling is with your hardware and access to chips, because this entire semiconductor manufacturing is controlled by China and South Korea. Okay, because there are only few semiconductor manufacturing units all across the world, because it is a very sophisticated industry in itself. It requires billions of dollars. It requires high energy, right? So all across the world, you don't have many players. There are only a handful of players, like 3 or 4 players who are producing your semiconductor chips, that to advanced chips that is going to be useful for running your AI models. Now this is where China is actually having a head race. China is the one which is controlling more than 70% of the supply chain with regard to semiconductor manufacturing. Obviously, it can get it is trying to catch up with USA with regard to your AI models. Okay. Now coming to India, India is not even having frontier AI models. We don't have any indigenous AI models. At least China is having a couple of them. They're trying to advance it. They're trying to make it better. India is not even having hardware chips, because entire world is dependent on China for your semiconductor chips. What we are maybe good with it is our population, because we are almost 800 million smartphone users. So we consume a lot of data. We also produce a lot of data. So in that sense, maybe where we are ahead is maybe, or what is our leverage or what is our strength is maybe the data point. Right? So this basic understanding is necessary for you to understand this AI race. Now coming back to the project. See, as I told you, it is AI hub, which is going to be a data center of 1 gigawatts. 1 gigawatts of data center in Visakhapatnam. Why they have chose Visakhapatnam? Why didn't they choose the Silicon Valley of India, Bangalore? Primarily because of access to water. Because all these data centers require huge amount of water for cooling purposes. They are going to generate a lot of it because computational, they're running 24/7. Right? So in order to make sure that the machines do not overheat, they need access to water for cooling purposes. Right? And Visakhapatnam is a coastal town, so getting access to water is not a difficult thing. In case of maybe Bangalore, we don't have any river that is passing through the city. Like major cities like Delhi or Lucknow or Kolkata, they generally have easy access to water. Bangalore is not having that easy access to, no river passes through it. right? Why not Delhi or Noida or Gurgaon? Because temperatures are going to reach very high proportions in the northern part of India. And therefore, access to water was one reason. Second important and primary reason was your government policy support. Your Andhra Pradesh government, under the chief ministership of Chandrababu Naidu, was actively scouting or actively attracting for foreign investors to come and invest in Andhra Pradesh. And they provided multiple supports. For example, tax subsidies they gave. Land was given at a much cheaper rate, 25% lower than what was the market rate. Electricity was provided, or the tax on electricity was also subsidized. And obviously, Google feels that all the conditions are being met, and therefore it decided to construct the largest AI hub outside US in Visakhapatnam. Right? And they have partnered with Adani, who is going to construct your building, and they have partnered with Airtel, who is going to provide, you can say, the cable services and so on and so forth. Okay, Adani is with regard to electricity, and Airtel is with regard to the telecom infrastructure. Right? Now, what are the merits of this? What are the advantages of merits of this? First and foremost thing, huge FDI inflow, foreign direct investment. The project itself is around $15 billion. In Indian rupees, it is translating to around 1.35 lakh crores as of April 2026. So there is a huge inflow of money that is coming into Indian economy. Second thing, it is not just going to remain as a data hub or AI hub. It is going to translate in the coming decades as economic hub. Okay, there is going to be increased economic activities in the region. People are going to come, people are going to live, roads are going to be constructed, hotels are going to be constructed. If technology people are coming, obviously there is going to be a lot of activity. And whenever the region develops into an economic hub, there is going to be job creation, and it is going to increase your state revenues. Okay, state GDP is going to be enhanced, or national GDP is going to be enhanced. Okay. Third important benefits of having this project, it is going to have a spillover effect. Any advanced technological company, eventually what is going to happen, it is going to have a spillover. And people who are working there are going to come out and start their own enterprises. Or the vendors who are supplying maybe, you can say, all these components, they'll learn some advanced manufacturing techniques, so on and so forth. So whenever an advanced technology company sets up its factory or plant in any part, the surrounding ecosystem is also going to benefit through something called as your spillover effect. Spillover effect means whatever is the advanced knowledge that the company is having or the unit is having, it is somehow going to spill it over. It cannot contain everything within itself. For example, your auto manufacturers from South Korea and Japan established their factories in India in 90s. Eventually what happened, the small spare parts manufacturing capacity in India was developed, because ultimately they have to procure spare parts from local itself. So when the vendors are unable to create good spare parts, that Hyundai company is going to transfer the knowledge to them, saying that you please adopt this process, please adopt these materials in order to increase the quality of the spare parts. So in the long run, any technological company in any area is going to have a spillover effect. Okay, even if it sits in China, why do you think China emerged as a manufacturing hub? Primarily because all the advanced US companies started shifting their factories into China, because China was also luring them with cheap labor. China also luring them with cheap land and advanced policy support. So all the factories or major factories shifted from USA to China because labor was costly, labor was cheaper, taxes were not very high, there was supporting governmental system, logistics were developed, infrastructure was developed, electricity was there. So they felt, let us shift to China. And eventually what happened, all the technological know-how which the advanced US companies had, they spilled into, or they translated into China. right? So we'll have a spillover effect if this AI hub, which is being established in Visakhapatnam, in 2-3 decades, we'll have a spillover effect. Finally, there is also going to be a soft power associated with it, okay, and the trust factor associated with it. If Google, which is the front runner in your AI race, is trying to have one of its largest bases in India, that shows that Google is trusting India and India's policies and India's talent. Okay, so that also clearly sends a signal to maybe other companies to come and establish their bases in India, right? And fifth important aspect is access to these AI services. Access to AI services. Right now, what is happening, if suppose I am a AI user, for example, I am trying to generate an image from ChatGPT or from Gemini. If I am sitting in India, whatever prompt I am sending, it is actually going to servers in maybe Ireland or maybe in USA or in other places where the servers are kept. The processing is happening over there and then it is coming back. So imagine if this AI hub, if the processing is within India, small and micro industries can get much more affordable, much more quicker, much more safer, you can say AI services. Okay. Another big advantage of having AI data hub within Indian territory is advanced control or better control by the government with regard to the data. So government can always say that whatever data you are processing in this Visakhapatnam AI hub, especially the data which is going to be generated from India, you please try to restrain the data within India. So it can have a much more better control on the data that is generated from India and flowing into this Visakhapatnam AI hub. Right? Otherwise, if the company is not going to comply, they can always say that we are going to cut off electricity, we are going to increase the taxes. But the same kind of leverage or same kind of threatening can't be done for AI hubs which are there in maybe Ireland or USA or other places. Because even if you say that I'm going to cut off electricity, who is going to take care of it, right? So there is going to be a better leverage or better control on the data that is going to be generated in India and that which is going to be processed by these AI hubs, right? So with these other merits, there are still certain concerns. They're saying that should we be really proud of it? If you look and ask some deeper questions, they're asking, see, ultimately what we are providing land, we are providing building. And maybe we are having some sort of a control on the data. Even then, this is on a weaker footprint because our legislation on your data localization and data sovereignty is still on a weaker side. But what in fact AI is getting, Google is getting, Google is still retaining the artificial intelligence, Google is still retaining the intellectual property rights. Google is just merely paying the rent for the building that it is operating in. So we shouldn't be really proud about what all are the benefits of it. These are all something meager, especially when you look at a broader terms of AI race about the fourth industrial revolution that is happening. We shouldn't proud ourselves by the fact that one of the US companies is establishing its shop over here. It is going to establish a shop. It is going to pay the rent. But what the shop is doing ultimately is going to remain with that company. Right? Whatever the AI models it is running, whatever the intelligence, whatever it is happening, is going to retain with the Google itself. It is going to earn billions of dollars. It might pay millions of dollars as a rent for us. Right? So that is one criticism that is being made against this particular project itself, and they're not against it. They want such companies to come and establish AI hubs in India because that is how we are trying to attract the companies. But we shouldn't stop over there is the argument. We should try and make better deals. We should try and build our own foundational models. We should try and build our own semiconductor manufacturing capacities. We should try and build our own talent pool. We should try and retain our own talent pool because most of these AI companies, we are having Indians who are in key positions, who are strategizing for these companies. So why can't we get those Indians to work for Indian companies or for Indian society? So these are some of the arguments that are being made uh, by being critical on this project, right? So we'll try and understand the reasons why India has failed to develop some of the frontier AI models. Frontier AI models are the ones which I already told you about: Gemini, ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude, Llama by Meta, right? So we'll try and understand why India is unable to succeed. See, first and foremost thing is the IT boom rewarded. Why we could not capitalize on the IT services boom? That is the question that we are trying to address. See, we were leaders with regard to IT services, right? But we were not able to utilize that in order to be a front runner in AI race. So that is the question. So that is the question that we are trying to address. See, the IT boom rewarded deploying other systems, allowing giants like Infosys, TCS, and Wipro to build billions without actually original research. So the argument is that see, USA was developing systems. They were the actual owners or developers of the system. But the maintenance part of it or the servicing part of it was done by India. So they say that, see, correct, we were earning billions of dollars, but billions of dollars was not through owning some advanced technologies, but millions of dollars were earned by servicing the systems that was actually produced by another country. Okay. In fact, India learned from this. For example, India was basically providing services like call support, helpline support, so on and so forth. Then it moved with regard to maintenance of all the softwares. Then it moved towards with regard to testing of softwares. Then it moved towards co-building or co-working of softwares. Then it moved towards strategizing at the central level itself, like what the design needs to be produced, what the software needs to be produced. So it started moving up the value chain. So we have global capability centers, which are not just, you can say, operational call centers, but which is deeply involved in the strategy or the design of the original products itself. However, we could still not leap forward in order to develop something as foundational as AI models. Okay, that is one of the failures of why India could not be a front runner in AI models despite being leaders in IT services. See, the name itself gives you the hint. We were servicing it. We were not co-producing it, or we were not owning it, or we were not producing it. Okay, we were just the service providers. It is more or less like an auto manufacturer manufactures your car. The servicing is done by the service guy. So we were in that situation when it comes to your information technology products, right? That is one of the reasons. Second, all the private wealth that these IT companies earned was not channelized into maybe research purposes, was not channelized into building some long-term products and services, right? So none of this wealth was channelized into research endowments or national lab. So this is one of the important reasons why, despite being a leader, we could not be a front runner in your AI race. Okay, so moving ahead, another big reason why India could not capitalize on its IT services boom and be a front runner in your AI race is because of R&D stagnation and brain drain. India's R&D expenditure at a national level stands at 1% of the GDP. And when you compare that with China, which is at 2.4%, South Korea is at 4.9%, Israel is at 5.4%. So only when you can say spend more and more money on your research and development, we can see some breakthroughs happening, and we'll be in a position to develop all these frontier AI models. but the investment itself is on a poor side, right? So what will happen if you are not investing too much on R&D? Even the potential talent, even the people who are talented, who are having the capability of getting that breakthrough, if they feel that the ecosystem is not rewarding them, or if the ecosystem is not developed, you'll obviously drift away to that place where you can be fully you, where you can fully realize your potential. For example, if a person is having that knowledge, is having that expertise, and if he's persistently working on something, it might take some years to get a breakthrough. For example, whatever AI that we are seeing, actually, the basic mathematics or the basic logic and the reasoning was developed 3 decades back itself. The AI scientists, the neural network scientists, who are now considered as the godfathers of AI, had developed these basic mathematical models, basic reasoning models 3 to 4 decades back itself. But it took us such a long time to actually make them productive, or to actually prove that and to actually yield that results, because of the advancements that we had with regard to the data, access to data. So everything got digitized, images got digitized, words got digitized, so many things got digitized, and that data was able to feed into that mathematical models or reasoning models, and eventually the output became your intelligence. Eventually, what we are seeing right now is because there were scientists who were working on this so-called artificial intelligence 3 or 4 decades back, and they were consistently working on it. People at some point of time dismissed them as mad people, but it was the efforts, it was their scientific breakthroughs, it was their mathematical models which laid the foundations of whatever we are seeing right now, right? So such kind of long-term investment into research and development needs to be there. If it is absent, even the talented scientists are going to move out of the country and go and work in national AI labs, or they are going to work in other institutes where they will be getting good income, where there will be good competition, where there will be good ecosystem, where there will be good encouragement, right? That is another big reason. So capability was systematic. See, it is not that India didn't have the capability. In fact, we are having IITs and a few other research institutions who produces able engineers. But we are not able to capitalize on it and produce good or able scientists, because science itself is not celebrated in India. That is also another big cultural reason of why we are seeing brain drain. Okay, I have my own friend who I studied, who was my classmate in my IIT college days, and now he is working as a scientist in Canada, and he has acquired the citizenship of Canada. And when I ask him, why don't you come back to India and maybe work for us, he simply says that, see, Gautam, there is not respect for the scientist, especially in the field that he is working in. It is a very, very niche field where he is working on a catalyst for industrial engineering, right? So he says that, first of all, there is no respect. Second of all, they will not pay me so much that they are paying me in Canada. So he felt that it is better to settle over there, and he sees good opportunity, good future over there. So everyone is at the end of the day individualistic in nature, right? So we are building capabilities, but it's ultimately being captured abroad because the ecosystem over there is developed in a good manner, right? So another reason why India lagged behind in your AI race is the venture capital rewards short-time returns. So there are all this capital, all these investors are looking for quick returns. They want returns within 3 years, 5 years. Okay, they're investing in consumer products. They're investing in retail products. You see Mama, you see Sugar, you see Bharat Pay, you see Phone Pay, you see multiple other startups. Whatever Shark Tank India we are seeing, very, very rarely you can come across products which are truly innovative in its category. Which is based on hardcore science and hardcore research. We all see consumer products or service products, right? So our venture capital is also investing on that. But all these foundational things requires long-term capital. It requires people to invest for 15-year, 30-year terms, right? And that is lacking in India. So capital is also one of the important reasons why India, and whatever wealth was generated by this IT services company, they were not channelized into your research and development or any national laboratories, right? Another big aspect is the policy failure. See, South Korea has built Samsung and Taiwan has built TSMC through state-aligned and visionary finance. They intentionally identify one company and try to push them through their policies, through their incentives, so that eventually it will emerge as a globally dominant player in that particular sector. Right? Samsung is a big player, is one of the largest electronics player in the world. And that was possible because the country or the government itself supported the growth of Samsung. Likewise, Taiwan itself supported the growth of TSMC. What we are seeing right now in India, where the government itself is supporting a company like Adani, is also strategically needed or necessity at this point of time. If not for a big infrastructure company, we will not be able to rapidly build the infrastructure that India as a country needs. That aspirational India, which requires a big infrastructure company. Similar kind of policy support needs to be given for semiconductor companies, AI companies, or AI national laboratories, right? Hardware and horizon. Okay, obviously, as I told you, even if you have AI models and data, you need to have a strong control on the semiconductor supply chain or the semiconductor chips on which this data or AI models are going to run. US itself is not able to work on it. So it is not, you can say, expected that India will become I'm not being pessimistic about it, but that's the reality part of it. And it is in this area that China is having a maximum control. Research universities and deep tech ecosystems fundamentally require 20-year commitments to mature. Okay, so whatever projects we are doing, see, the UPI infrastructure that we developed, it did not happen overnight. It was, the underlying work was built for nearly 2 decades. And that is why UPI, the PhonePe and Google Pay, whatever we use right now, is a revolutionary thing because it took nearly 2 decades of digitization. Right? So that kind of broad horizon and broad vision needs to happen. And that can happen when our governments are also structurally aligned with the long-term thinking. If our governments are thinking about short-term election cycles, that what can I do in order to win the next elections, we'll obviously sidetrack or we'll obviously lose out on the vision that requires 15-year horizon, 20-year horizon. Right? Your China plans for nearly 20 years horizon. USA does the same. All the countries do a long-term horizon. So if you want to be a leader in AI, you should have started on a long-term horizon, right? Also, you know that India lacks manufacturing industrialization. India lacks this specialization in manufacturing semiconductor chips. So all these reasons are contributing to India falling behind in your AI race and India not capitalizing on its IT services boom. Right? So the current path, India's AI trajectory is right now we are diffusing or we are using AI without actually producing it. Why this diffusion word is there? That is a word you can say coined by Nandan Nilekani, who is considered as the CTO of India, right? Because he was the CEO of Infosys. He was the brain behind your Aadhaar. He was the brain behind your UPI. So he was the brain behind your India Stack, brain behind your multiple other projects, Bharat Bill Pay, multiple other projects. He says that with the current situation that we are having, we cannot spend our resources in trying to build foundational models. Rather, he says that let us use these foundational models and diffuse it to smaller and micro enterprises. Right? So that is his argument. See, people are not disagreeing with the fact that we have to leverage it, diffuse it, like build layers on top of it so that multiple industries are able to make use of AI tool or AI technological advancement. No one is refuting that. But the paper or the article which was written by Raghuram Rajan says that whatever Nandan Nilekani is saying is not completely correct. He is wrong in a sense that we should not stop that. The moment we say that we are going to diffuse AI technology and use it for our smaller and medium firms, we tend to abstain ourselves from building the foundational models itself. That is their core argument. They're saying that we are repeating the same mistakes that we did in IT services. IT services were just servicing the products that was designed and owned by US companies. Slowly we started moving up the chain, but it was not sufficient. Likewise, if we do the same thing for AI, whereby we are just utilizing it and not building it, we'll again repeat the same mistake and we'll again be lagging behind in maybe the fifth industrial revolution or so on and so forth. Right? See, the IT services era provided India with labor income. It provided income, but yielded zero intellectual property because we are not owning those softwares. Right? So that is about India's trajectory. So whatever I told you about the negatives of having that AI hub in Vizag, that applies if you adopt the similar strategy. Also, one more thing is that if you adopt a strategy of having big AI hubs in India's coastal towns or in India's cities, there is a greater lock-in period. We get, because this AI is so foundational in its nature, it is going to get us trapped into it for a much more longer period of time, and we will not be focusing on building the AI foundational models itself. Okay, so that dependency is going to deepen in a very irreversible manner. Okay, and every time you are using that foundational manner, you are going to pay for the company who built it. Right? So that is the current trajectory that we are having. So what needs to be done? Okay, what needs to be done? First and foremost thing, every foreign AI data center, it must mandate R&D investment or technology transfer or local model training rather than just infrastructure building. So if Google is investing over there, it should mandate that a part of money should be going into R&D investment. It should mandate technological transfer. It should mandate local procurement. It should mandate training of certain personnel. Right? India must strategically own national GPU clusters independent of foreign corporate control. So similar to what France is actually trying to do, okay, whereby it is trying to build its own access or control on the GPUs, the hardware on which these AI models are going to run. So India should get access to these GPS clusters using better negotiation deals with all the semiconductor companies. Next is your data and research endowment. See, what they are saying is that first, whatever data is being flown from India into this AI hubs and whatever training data it is going to be generating, the training data should be again flowing back to India. So if Indian companies wants to make use of the training data coming out of AI hub in Visakhapatnam, they should be allowed access to it. Why? Because of data sovereignty. That data is generated by India, and whatever you are going to process and get out of it, whatever is the some insights into it, that should also be accessible to Indians is one of the argument that they are making. Second thing, they are saying that you have to levy a technology infrastructure cess on foreign AI companies who are operating within the country. You impose a cess on them, and whatever that money is being collected out of cess should directly go to funding your scientists and national laboratories and research institutions in India who are working on building foundational AI models. Right? So you allow them to operate in India, levy them cess. Whatever cess you're connecting should flow only to those research institutions. It should not be used for funding your freebies, providing free bus rides, for providing free laptops, providing free food grains. No. So that is one of the argument which they are saying. Finally, they also argue, it is argued that you have to create a dedicated national AI agency who works with the long-term vision of building foundational AI models. This is going to, you can say, mobilize the long-term capital that is required for funding all these AI industries, right? Because all these things are long-term games. We need to wait for 15 years, 20 years in order to give some productive results. And it requires consistent support, consistent money flow, consistent monitoring. And for that, we require a dedicated AI agency, right? Whose basic idea is to have a long-term horizon, mobilize long-term capital, and provide long-term support for the players in this industry, right? And talent and national champion, in a sense, whatever talent is working in abroad, why don't we create some incentives, ask them to come back and work in India, join them with the national missions, give them good compensation, give them the freedom, give them access to the best of facilities in India. And that is one of the important reasons. Only if when you have good human talent, you will be able to build foundational AI models. We cannot always be consumers of AI models. We have to be the producers of AI models is one of the argument made. So we are not just trying to diffuse AI by building on top of AI. We have to go a step further and try to develop our own fundamental or foundational AI models itself. Right? So, and you deploy state-aligned industrial policy to engineer one world-class Indian AI or semiconductor company, similar to what the government has done with your Adanis and Ambanis. Okay, to produce a world-class infrastructure company and to produce a world-class telecom company, it should do a similar kind of a policy push to engineer a world-class semiconductor company. I think we'll do that in coming years. And there is nothing wrong with it. In a democratic country, people might argue that we are favoring one family or one person. But in the national interest, such kind of policy support is required in order to compete in the global market and in order to safeguard our own interest. Right? So that is all about this particular topic. Hope you got an idea on it. There's a small question which I have given about this entire approach itself, that should we go for diffusion of AI or should we try and build your foundational AI models itself? Arguments for and against both these approaches. Like, attempt this question, and you can send it to me for the feedback or send it to me for the correction. If you have any doubt, you can call me on this number, or you can WhatsApp or Telegram me on this number, or you can email to me on this email ID. So looking forward for your responses. Thank you.